Jace rode slowly across the vast red desert, the twin suns of the planet hanging low in the sky. His horse, a genetically adapted creature with sleek golden fur and wide hooves perfect for the sand, moved steadily. The wind carried a faint taste of metal and dust, and Jace squinted against it. Out here, alone in the open expanse, every sound, every shadow mattered. He had built this life carefully. The ranch, a cluster of solar-powered domes and bioengineered fields, was more than a home. It was his sanctuary. Most settlers on this frontier planet kept to themselves, and so did he. The silence suited him. The desert had rules, harsh ones, but simple ones. And Jace liked simple. That afternoon, something unusual caught his eye. A small, distant figure staggered along the horizon, far too small to be a grown man, and moving erratically. At first, he thought it might be a local desert animal, but something in its motion made him pause. As he drew closer, he saw her clearly, a young girl, likely in her late teens, wearing tattered clothes that had once been functional but were now faded and dusty. Her hair, dark and tangled, whipped around her face in the dry wind. She stumbled, collapsed, and then pushed herself upright again, walking like someone who had been traveling far longer than she should have been able to. Jace stopped his horse a safe distance away and called out, "Hey, you lost?" The girl froze, her wide brown eyes scanning him with a mixture of fear and hope. She didn't answer at first. She looked at him like he might be a mirage or a threat. "I'm not going to hurt you," Jace said calmly, lowering his hands. "You need water?" She nodded hesitantly, taking slow, careful steps toward him. Her movements were cautious, almost like a wild animal testing a new environment. Jace dismounted and reached into his saddlebag, pulling out a canteen filled with clean water. "Here," he said softly. "Take it." She hesitated for a moment, then took it with shaking hands. She drank quickly, as if her body had been starving for hours. When she finally looked up, her eyes were clearer, more focused. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "You're safe," Jace said. "You're on my ranch. I'm Jace." Her lips pressed together, as if she wanted to say something more but wasn't sure if she could trust him. After a moment, she muttered, "Taya, Taya," he repeated. "All right. Let's get you inside. You need rest and food." She looked at him uncertainly, then nodded. Together, they walked toward the cluster of domes that made up his homestead. Inside, Jace set her up in a small guest room. It wasn't luxurious, but it was clean, warm, and safe. He handed her a simple meal, nutrient-rich bread and fruit, grown in his hydroponic garden. She ate slowly, still wary, but she ate. "You've been traveling far?" Jace asked as he watched her. Taya hesitated. I don't know. I was with my people. Then, I got lost." "Lost?" Jace asked gently. "Yes, the desert. It's big," she said. Her voice trembled, and she looked down at her hands. "I didn't know where to go." Jace nodded. He understood. Out here, the desert could swallow a person whole. He had seen settlers, explorers, even travelers who thought they could outsmart the wind and the sand. Most failed. "You'll be okay here," he said. "I can help you." Taya glanced at him, still unsure. She wasn't used to kindness from strangers. Not like this. Out here, people survived by being careful, by trusting no one. But there was something different about Jace. He didn't just offer her food or shelter. He offered understanding, respect, and safety. Days passed. Jace and Taya fell into a quiet rhythm. She learned to navigate the ranch, watching the drones that guided the bioherds across the sand. She helped feed the animals, repair solar panels, and tend the small garden that provided much of their food. Jace was impressed. She was curious, clever, and attentive. Her eyes lit up when she figured out how to adjust the drones to better herd the animals, and she even suggested small changes that improved efficiency. "You're quick," Jace said one afternoon, leaning against the shade of the dome. "Most people take weeks to figure out the drones. You did it in days." Taya smiled faintly, a small but genuine expression. "I like learning." And he could see that she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. One evening, after the suns had dipped behind the horizon, painting the desert sky with streaks of orange and purple, Jace sat with Taya outside the dome. He handed her a simple device, a small, holographic map of the ranch. "This shows the layout," he explained, "and where the water sources and power nodes are. You'll need to know it, just in case." Taya's fingers hovered over the glowing map. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "The desert feels less lonely when I can see it like this." Jace smiled. "It's good to know someone sees it that way. Most people see only danger." She laughed quietly, a sound that seemed almost foreign in the emptiness of the desert. But it warmed the air between them. As the nights went on, Taya shared fragments of her past. Her people had been a small group of settlers, trying to build a new life in a harsh, unwelcoming land. She spoke of her mother, who had been a brilliant engineer and leader, and the friends she had lost along the way. Each story added depth to her, made her human in ways that Jace hadn't anticipated. He, in turn, shared his own stories, not of family, for he had none left, but of mistakes, lessons learned, and the solitude that had once felt comforting. Taya listened, and sometimes asked questions that made him reconsider old choices. One night, as they watched the stars emerge above the desert, Taya said, "Do you ever feel small out here, like the world is too big?" Jace thought for a moment. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But then I remember that this world isn't just big, it's full of chances. For those willing to take them. For those willing to care." Taya looked at him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "I think I understand," she whispered. By the end of the week, Taya had become more confident, moving around the ranch with purpose. She had begun helping Jace not just with chores, but with decisions. Which crops to plant, how to optimize the solar arrays, ways to guide the herds through sandstorms. He couldn't deny it, she had a natural intelligence that amazed him. The desert had tested her, and she had responded with resilience. And for Jace, this young girl, lost and alone, was becoming more than a responsibility. She was a companion in thought and work. Someone who challenged him, inspired him, and reminded him of the human capacity to survive and thrive, even in the harshest conditions. One evening, after a particularly long day adjusting the hydroponic pumps, Taya turned to him. "I've never met anyone like you," she said. Jace chuckled. "I hope that's good." "It is," she replied simply. As the two of them watched the sun set, the desert stretched endlessly before them, harsh, unforgiving, but alive. In that vastness, they had found something rare: trust, companionship, and a fragile but growing hope. And though neither of them knew it yet, the arrival of another figure, a woman connected to Taya in ways that would challenge Jace's heart and mind, was soon to change everything. But for now, in this quiet desert, a lost girl had found shelter, and a solitary cowboy had found a new purpose. The desert mornings on Jace's ranch had a stillness all their own. The two suns rose slowly, casting long, golden shadows over the dunes and the glimmering solar panels that dotted the land. Taya had begun waking earlier now, eager to learn, to see, to understand. Jace had noticed it. The lost, wary girl from a few weeks ago was slowly becoming a young woman who moved with confidence. That morning, he found her near the solar domes, inspecting the automated water pumps. Her fingers ran along the tubes and wires as if she could feel their flow in her hands. "You've been at it early," Jace said, leaning against a dome. "Don't want to burn out your energy." Taya looked up, her eyes bright with curiosity. "I want to understand everything," she said. "How it works, why it works, and maybe how to make it better." Jace smiled. He had spent years perfecting this small desert settlement, learning every system, every hidden quirk of the land and technology. But Taya's questions weren't just about mechanics, they were about possibilities, about seeing the world not as it was, but as it could be. He nodded, deciding to indulge her. "All right," he said. "Today I'll teach you drone guidance." For the next few hours, Jace showed Taya the small flying drones that helped herd their bioengineered livestock across the dunes. These weren't ordinary drones, they were designed to recognize the animal's behavior, adjust their pathing, and even respond to environmental hazards like sudden dust storms. At first, Taya struggled. She miscalculated a few maneuvers, causing the drones to hover awkwardly or collide lightly with the fence markers. She frowned, frustrated. "Don't worry," Jace said gently. "It's not about getting it right the first time. It's about learning how the drones think. Think of them like partners." Taya considered this, and slowly, her movements grew more precise. She adjusted the flight paths, noticing patterns Jace hadn't considered. By the end of the lesson, she had optimized the routes, making the drones more efficient and less prone to stalling in the heat of the day. Jace watched her with surprise. "I didn't think of that," he admitted. "You're good at this." Taya smiled, a little shyly. "I just pay attention. I like to notice things." It was a skill Jace knew well. Attention and observation could save lives in the desert. He nodded approvingly. "You're learning fast. Keep it up." After the lesson, they moved on to other chores. Taya helped repair a broken hydroponic system, following Jace's instructions, while adding her own ideas about water flow and nutrient balance. "You think these plants will grow faster if we adjust the nutrient mix?" she asked, pointing at the glowing tanks. "Maybe," Jace said. "We can experiment carefully. Nothing lost. Nothing broken if we do it right." She worked carefully, watching the tanks, measuring adjustments. By midday, the plants were thriving under her attention. Jace was impressed. She wasn't just learning. She was improving his systems. "Looks like we've got a natural engineer here," he said, handing her a small towel to wipe her hands. Taya laughed softly. "I just like making things work." Their routine became a dance of learning and teaching. Jace provided the knowledge of the desert and technology, while Taya added ideas from her own background, from traditions and insights he had never considered. She suggested using solar reflectors to warm water tanks more efficiently and proposed small wind turbines to aid the drones on windy days. Evenings were quieter. They often sat outside the dome, watching the desert glow under the twin suns' fading light. Taya asked questions about the stars, about the planets they might have come from, and about human colonies across the galaxy. Jace told her stories of early settlers, of mistakes and triumphs, of clever solutions to impossible problems. He spoke of humans' ability to adapt, to survive, to make a home in even the harshest conditions. "You think humans are special?" Taya asked one evening. Jace thought for a moment. "I think humans are stubborn," he said with a grin. "We find a way. Even when it seems impossible. Even when the world tells us we can't. That's what makes us different. That's what makes us strong." Taya looked thoughtful. "I like that," she said softly. Days turned into weeks. Taya's confidence grew, and with it, her curiosity. She began exploring the desert beyond the ranch's immediate boundaries, mapping safe paths, noting water sources, and even marking potential shelter spots in case of storms. Jace watched her, cautious but proud. "You're venturing far," he said one morning as she prepared to leave for a scouting trip. "I want to see what's out there," she said simply. "I want to know what's real, not just what we imagine." Jace nodded. "Just remember the rules of the desert. Always be aware of wind, heat, and shifting sands. And always mark your path." She smiled. "I will." While Taya explored, Jace spent his time preparing the ranch for harsher conditions. He realized that with her help, he could expand operations, more crops, more efficient energy use, even better protection against storms. But he also knew she was changing him. He no longer saw his ranch as a solitary refuge. It was becoming a place of growth, of shared effort, and unexpected joy. One day, while checking the drone circuits, Taya discovered something strange buried beneath the sand. A series of ancient structures partially exposed by shifting dunes. They were unlike anything Jace had seen. Metallic, sleek, but covered in layers of sand and corrosion. "What is it?" she asked, brushing off the sand. Jace crouched beside her, examining the structures. "I don't know," he admitted. "Could be old survey equipment, or something left from the first colonists. Either way, it's intriguing." Together, they began to explore it cautiously. Taya's curiosity led her to uncover small panels with blinking lights, symbols, and levers. Jace was impressed she was not afraid to experiment, to analyze patterns, to ask questions that might seem too complex for a girl who had only recently arrived. "Whatever this is," Jace said, "it might help us understand the land, or it might just be another puzzle." Taya's eyes shone. "I like puzzles." As the sun set, they returned to the dome, bringing with them sketches and notes about the strange structures. They pored over them, comparing patterns and symbols, wondering what they could mean. "Maybe this is a tool," Jace said thoughtfully. "Something to help manage the desert, control water or wind or soil fertility." Taya nodded. "Maybe. Or maybe it's a warning. Something people left to guide others." Jace realized she was right. Out here, even objects from the past had meaning. They were lessons, guidance, or sometimes mysteries to solve, and together, they could uncover them. That night, as Taya lay in her small room, she thought about her life before the desert. She thought about her mother, the people she had lost, and the strange new world she had found with Jace. For the first time in a long time, she felt hope. Jace, in his own quarters, stared at the stars. He thought about the girl who had appeared in the desert and how she had changed the quiet rhythm of his life. She was intelligent, brave, and full of life. And though he would not admit it aloud, he felt the stirrings of something he hadn't felt in years. Connection, responsibility, and maybe even family. The next morning, Taya returned to the ancient structures with renewed determination. She and Jace worked side by side, deciphering symbols, testing panels, and imagining possibilities. Each discovery brought small triumphs, a sense of progress, and a growing respect for each other's abilities. By the end of the week, the duo had mapped the entire site. Though its full purpose remained a mystery, they found patterns that hinted at water management and energy distribution ideas that could someday expand the ranch and support future settlers. Taya smiled at Jace, her eyes reflecting the golden desert light. "I think we could really make this work," she said. Jace nodded. "We could, and we will." Together, as the suns dipped below the horizon, the desert seemed less vast, less lonely. With each lesson learned, each discovery made, they were building something new. Not just a ranch, not just a life, but a partnership rooted in trust, curiosity, and the quiet power of human ingenuity. And though neither of them knew it yet, the discoveries they had made would attract attention that would bring a figure from Taya's past to their door, changing their lives forever. But for now, in the heat and dust of the desert, they had found purpose, companionship, and the first hints of something extraordinary. The desert was quiet that morning, the heat still gentle as Jace and Taya walked toward the edge of the dunes. The strange structures they had discovered earlier shimmered faintly under the twin suns. Dust swirled around their boots, and the wind carried the faint hum of distant machinery buried under sand and time. Taya had grown confident now. She moved with purpose, examining patterns on the ancient structures, taking notes, and sketching diagrams on a small digital pad. She was tireless, always curious, always asking questions. "Look at this, Jace," she said, pointing to a series of etched symbols along one metallic panel. "These aren't just markings. Their instructions, or directions. They were meant for someone who knew how to read them. 18. Jace crouched beside her, brushing away layers of sand to reveal more of the panel. "It's impressive," he said slowly. "Whoever made this was thinking long-term. They wanted their work to last, even if people forgot who they were." Taya nodded. "It reminds me of my mother. She used to plan everything in a way that lasted, even if she wasn't there to see it." Jace's chest tightened. He had heard only fragments about her mother before. Nayeli had been a brilliant engineer, a leader, someone who inspired those around her, but Taya had always spoken of her with a mixture of longing and fear. The woman had vanished years ago during a planetary survey, leaving Taya to navigate the world alone. "Do you think she's still out there?" Jace asked carefully. Taya's eyes shifted, and she swallowed. "I don't know," she admitted. "I hope so. I think she has to be." Jace studied her closely. The hope in her eyes was fierce, but there was also a thread of worry, a memory of being lost and unprotected. He wanted to assure her, to say that everything would be all right, but he knew better than to make promises he couldn't keep. They spent the morning mapping the structures further. Jace had learned to trust Taya's instincts. They often led to discoveries he would have missed. She had a way of seeing the desert not as a barren wasteland, but as a living system, full of signals and patterns. "Over here," she said, pointing to a buried hatch. "It's deeper than the others. I think it leads somewhere." Jace knelt beside her. Careful, could be unstable. Together, they cleared the sand, revealing a metallic door covered in corrosion but still functional. Jace tested the locking mechanism. It clicked open smoothly, revealing a staircase leading down into darkness. "Looks like someone built a shelter. Or a control room," Jace said. "Let's see what's inside." They descended carefully, activating portable lights. The chamber below was filled with old consoles, some still faintly glowing, and holographic displays that flickered as if waking from a long sleep. Dust floated in the light, and the air smelled faintly metallic. Taya's eyes widened. "It's amazing," she whispered. "It's like a time capsule." As they explored, they discovered schematics of water distribution systems, energy networks, and climate controls for the desert. Whoever had built this had envisioned making the entire region habitable. "Someone was trying to change the desert," Jace said. "Make it livable. Maybe even thrive." Taya nodded slowly. "Like my mother. She always said humans could adapt anywhere. If we understand the land and respect it, we can survive." Jace smiled. "Looks like your mother and whoever built this had the same idea." They spent hours examining the chamber, taking notes, and photographing the ancient consoles. By the time they emerged, the suns were high, casting harsh light across the dunes. Both were tired but exhilarated. "Let's call this a discovery day," Jace said, brushing sand from his hands. Taya nodded, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She kept thinking about her mother, about the years lost, the distance between them, and the possibility that Nayeli might still be alive somewhere on this planet. That night, as Taya lay in her room, she stared at the ceiling and whispered to herself, "Mom, if you're out there, I'll find you. We'll be together again." Jace, in his quarters, was looking at the stars. He thought about Taya, about her courage and determination. He also thought about the mother she spoke of, a brilliant woman who had shaped Taya's mind and spirit. There was something stirring in him, curiosity, yes, but also a sense that this shadow from Taya's past might soon enter their lives. The next morning, Taya and Jace returned to the chamber. She traced her fingers over a panel and noticed a small, faintly glowing interface she hadn't seen before. "What is this?" she asked. Jace leaned in. "It looks like a communication panel, maybe a way to send messages across the planet. But it's old, could be broken." Taya activated the panel with careful precision. A holographic map appeared, showing several points marked across the desert. One point pulsed softly, as if waiting. "Jace, look," Taya said. "This point." It's alive. Someone is, or was, here recently. Jace frowned. Alive? Do you mean someone might be nearby? Taya nodded slowly. Maybe. Or maybe it's my mother. Jace studied the map. If it's her, we need to be careful. The desert can be unforgiving. We don't know what's out there. But we have to try, Taya said firmly. She's out there somewhere. She's out there somewhere. And I can't ignore this. Jace saw the determination in her eyes, the same determination that had guided her through the desert to him. He knew then that he would not stop her. Instead, he promised himself he would help her, guide her, and protect her as best he could. They spent the next few days preparing. Taya gathered supplies, water packs, nutrient rations, mapping devices. Jace checked their equipment, drones, communication arrays, and protective gear. During their preparations, Taya shared more about her mother. Nayeli had been a pioneer in her own right, designing water systems and energy grids for new colonies. She had vanished during a planetary survey mission, leaving Taya alone and frightened. I never stopped hoping she was alive, Taya said quietly one evening. I just didn't know how to find her. Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll find her. And if she's anything like you, she's out there making her own way too. Taya smiled faintly, comforted by his words. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of possibility, that hope could become reality. The morning they set out toward the pulsing point on the holographic map, the desert stretched endlessly before them, golden sands and rolling dunes under the twin suns. Their vehicles were loaded with supplies, drones hovering to scout ahead. Taya looked at Jace. Ready? He nodded. As ready as we'll ever be. The journey was long and challenging. They navigated shifting dunes, avoided treacherous sinkholes, and marked their path carefully. Taya's mapping skills and Jace's survival knowledge made them a strong team. They found small signs along the way, remnants of old equipment, footprints in the sand, hints of someone moving cautiously across the desert. Each clue heightened their anticipation. Each night, when they camped under the stars, Taya spoke softly of her mother, what she might look like, how she might think, what they could say to each other after years apart. Jace listened, silently amazed at her hope and resilience. He had lived alone in the desert for years, but watching Taya reminded him of what human determination could accomplish. Even in the harshest conditions, she had hope, courage, and a mind that refused to be limited by fear. Finally, on the 5th day, they reached a small, hidden valley. It was shielded by cliffs and rock formations, a secret place in the desert. In the center stood a small dome, partially buried in sand but clearly functional. Taya's heart raced. This has to be her, she whispered. Jace studied the dome carefully. Could be. Let's approach slowly. We don't know what we'll find. As they drew closer, a figure appeared at the entrance, a woman, tall, confident, with dark eyes that held intelligence and warmth. Taya's breath caught. Mom? She asked, her voice trembling. The woman's face softened. Taya. Is it really you? They ran to each other, hugging tightly. Years of separation, fear, and uncertainty melted away. Jace watched quietly, a sense of awe and respect growing in him for the woman who had shaped the girl he had come to admire. Nayeli stepped back, looking at Jace. And you must be the one who found her and kept her safe. Jace nodded. Yes, I'm Jace. It's an honor to meet you. Nayeli smiled, a mixture of relief, pride, and curiosity. Thank you. I owe you for keeping my daughter alive. Taya beamed, holding her mother's hands. I told you she'd find me, she said, turning to Jace with a grin. Jace smiled. Looks like she did. As the sun set over the desert valley, the three of them stood together, the past and present merging. A new chapter was beginning not just for Taya or for Jace, but for the family they were becoming, bound by trust, courage, and the endless possibilities of the stars. The hidden valley was quiet except for the hum of machinery still faintly running inside the dome. Jace, Taya, and Nayeli stood together, watching the twin suns cast long golden streaks across the sand. It felt like a world paused, waiting for something to happen, and Jace sensed that the real journey was only just beginning. Nayeli looked at her daughter, her eyes filled with warmth. Taya, you've grown so much. You're strong, clever, and brave. Taya smiled, her heart swelling with relief and happiness. I learned from the best, she said, glancing at her mother. Jace watched the reunion quietly. There was a grace to Nayeli, a mix of strength and gentleness that reminded him of Taya. He could see why the girl had inherited her spirit and intelligence. Can I show you something? Nayeli asked suddenly. Something I've been working on since I disappeared. Taya's eyes sparkled with curiosity. What is it? Nayeli led them deeper into the dome, past consoles, wires, and glowing panels. At the center of the room stood a large, complex device, a network of pipes, wires, and small glowing crystals that hummed softly. This, Nayeli said, is a terraforming device. It can change the land, control water flow, improve soil fertility, and even adjust local climate patterns. Jace stepped closer, examining the device. You mean, this could make the desert green? Nayeli nodded. Eventually. But it's complicated. It's not just turning sand into grass. It's about balance, understanding the environment, and working with it, not against it. Taya reached out, her hands hovering over the device. It's beautiful and powerful. Yes, Nayeli said softly. And it's why I disappeared. I was studying how to use it safely. The desert isn't forgiving of mistakes. One wrong adjustment, and the entire ecosystem could collapse. Jace nodded slowly. He felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. So, we have to be careful. Exactly, Nayeli said. We need to combine your knowledge. Jace, you know this desert like no one else. You understand the land, the wind, the animals. And Taya has her instincts too. Together, we can make this work. For the next few days, they worked side by side. Jace guided them through the desert, explaining wind patterns, sand stability, and how to read subtle signs in the land. Nayeli monitored the device, making careful adjustments while explaining each step to Taya. Taya listened, absorbed every detail, and contributed ideas. Her observations about the desert where sand shifted more quickly, where water collected underground, proved invaluable. Nayeli was impressed by how much her daughter had grown, and Jace realized just how capable Taya had become. One afternoon, as they adjusted a network of pipes to channel water into small reservoirs, Jace paused. He looked at Nayeli, standing beside Taya, explaining a complex flow pattern. There was something in her calm confidence that stirred feelings he hadn't expected. He admired her intelligence, her grace under pressure, and the ease with which she connected with Taya. He shook his head slightly, trying to focus on the work, but he couldn't ignore it. His heart was waking after years of solitude. Taya noticed the subtle tension and smiled quietly. She understood the bond forming between Jace and her mother, and it made her feel warm inside. She had wanted this reunion for years, and now that it had happened, the sense of family surrounding her was stronger than ever. The work on the terraforming device progressed steadily. They discovered that the old structures in the desert weren't just relics, they were connected to the device, part of an ancient network designed to optimize water and energy flow across a wide area. This is incredible, Nayeli said one evening, wiping sweat from her forehead. If we can fully understand this network, we could transform the desert into a thriving region. Farms, water systems, maybe even small settlements. Jace nodded, excitement in his eyes. Humans could really live out here. Not just survive, but thrive. And we'd be the first to make it happen. Taya clapped her hands softly. We could show everyone that humans can make a home anywhere, even in a desert like this. Nayeli smiled at her daughter. Yes. But we have to do it carefully. The desert is alive. We can't rush it. Night fell, and the desert was quiet. The only light coming from the dome and the faint glow of the stars. Jace, Nayeli, and Taya sat outside, drinking water and watching the twin moons rise. There was a moment of silence, peaceful and rare in the midst of their work. "You've done well, Jace," Nayeli said softly, breaking the silence. "You've taken care of Taya, helped her grow, and you've taught her to survive. I owe you more than words can say. I. Jace felt his chest tighten. It was my honor. Taya's smart, brave. She made it easy to care for her." Nayeli looked at him, her eyes meeting his. There was something unspoken in that gaze. A connection that had formed through shared effort, trust, and long days of careful work. Jace realized he was drawn to her, and that feeling only deepened as the days passed. Over the next week, the three of them made significant progress with the terraforming device. Water began to flow through previously dry channels, and small patches of greenery appeared where the soil had been nourished. They celebrated each small success, knowing that every achievement was a step toward transforming the desert into a livable paradise. One evening, Taya wandered slightly away from the dome to watch the sunset. Jace joined her silently. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "The desert. It feels alive now." Jace nodded. "It does. And we're just beginning." Taya looked at him, curiosity and admiration in her eyes. "Do you ever wish you'd met my mother earlier?" Jace hesitated. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I think things happen for a reason. We met when we were supposed to meet. And now we can do something extraordinary together." Taya smiled, understanding more than he realized. She had watched her mother and Jace, seen the unspoken connection, and felt hope for their future as a family. The next day, they returned to the buried structures in the desert. Using the device's guidance, they carefully integrated the ancient network with modern technology. Water reservoirs, energy grids, and microclimate zones began to function smoothly. Plants grew faster, and small ponds appeared, attracting desert animals back to the area. "This is it," Nayeli said softly, watching a small stream of water trickle into a new basin. "The desert. It's alive again." Jace put a hand on her shoulder. "And we did it together." Taya grinned, her eyes shining. "We really can make anything possible if we work together." The days that followed were filled with wonder. The desert, once harsh and unyielding, began to bloom in patches. Jace marveled at the ingenuity of humans, the ability to survive, adapt, and transform even the most unforgiving environments. And he realized that this story wasn't just about survival or technology. It was about trust, collaboration, and the bonds that made humans capable of greatness. One evening, as the sun set and the stars began to twinkle, Jace found himself standing beside Nayeli, watching Taya laugh as she adjusted a small solar reflector to improve plant growth. He felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years. "You know," he said quietly, "I didn't expect this. All of this. I thought I'd be alone, surviving day by day. But now, I feel like I'm part of something bigger, something worth everything." Nayeli turned to him, a soft smile on her face. "You are part of something bigger, Jace. And I'm glad it's you." For the first time in a long time, Jace felt at peace. The desert was no longer just a challenge to endure. It was a home, a place of growth, and a witness to the human spirit. And he realized that, with Nayeli by his side, he was ready for whatever the future held. As the night deepened, the three of them sat together outside the dome, watching the desert bloom under the stars. The terraforming device hummed softly in the background, a symbol of human ingenuity and hope, and for the first time, Jace understood that true strength wasn't just about surviving the desert, it was about creating life, nurturing it, and sharing it with those you cared for. The desert had begun to change. Small green patches spread across the dunes, Pools of water glimmered where none had existed before, and the air seemed fresher, alive with the subtle hum of life. Jace, Taya, and Nayeli worked tirelessly, their days filled with careful monitoring, adjustments, and planning. But now, after weeks of effort, they were beginning to see the results of their labor. The desert was responding. Taya ran along a narrow path leading to a small pond that had formed near one of the ancient reservoirs. She bent down, dipping her hands into the clear water, watching as tiny fish swam past. "Look, Jace, look at this. Life really came back." Jace joined her, smiling. "It's incredible. And it's all because of you, your mother, and the work we've done together." Nayeli appeared from the dome, holding a small scanner that displayed water flow, soil quality, and plant growth. "Everything is within safe limits," she said. "The system is stable. The desert is thriving." Taya spun around, hugging her mother tightly. "We did it. We really did it." Nayeli hugged her back, a mix of pride and relief in her eyes. "Yes, Taya. But remember, this is only the beginning. Life here is delicate. We have to care for it, nurture it, and continue learning." Jace watched them, his heart full. He had known life in the desert as a constant struggle, a series of challenges to survive. But now, standing among them, seeing the desert transform and witnessing the bond between mother and daughter, he realized that life could also be beautiful, hopeful, and full of possibility. Over the following days, the transformation accelerated. Plants took root in small clusters across the sands, tiny streams connected the new ponds, and desert animals returned to drink, forage, and explore. The ranch had expanded beyond its original boundaries, and the ancient structures that had once seemed mysterious now became the backbone of a thriving system. Jace, Taya, and Nayeli often worked together under the twin suns, coordinating water flow, repairing solar panels, and monitoring the ecosystem. Every small success was celebrated with laughter, high fives, and quiet moments of satisfaction. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, Jace and Nayeli stood together on a ridge overlooking the desert. Taya had gone ahead to check on one of the new ponds, her laughter echoing faintly in the distance. "This is more than I imagined," Jace said quietly, his voice almost lost in the wind. "I thought the desert would always be a challenge, something to endure. But now, it's alive, beautiful, and it feels like home." Nayeli smiled, a warmth in her eyes. "It's amazing what humans can do when they work together. You, Taya, and I. We've proven that." Jace hesitated, then looked at her with a seriousness he hadn't shown before. "Nayeli, I need to be honest. When I first met you, I didn't know what to expect. But now, I feel something. Something more than respect. I care for you." Nayeli's eyes softened, a small smile playing on her lips. "Jace, I care for you too. I've seen your heart through all of this work. Your care for Taya, your respect for life. You're a good man." Jace felt a weight lift from him. He had spent so many years alone, surviving day by day, and now he realized he could have more than solitude. He could have connection, family, and love. Taya returned at that moment, noticing the quiet moment between them. She smiled knowingly. "I see you two talking," she said, a playful glint in her eyes. "It's about time." Jace laughed softly, feeling lighter than he had in years. Nayeli chuckled, shaking her head. "She's right," she said. "We've faced the desert, transformed it, and now, perhaps it's time for hearts to grow too." The next morning, the three of them explored further reaches of the desert. Using the ancient networks, they discovered small areas that could support crops, tiny natural springs that had been hidden for centuries, and sand dunes that could be reshaped to conserve water. Every discovery strengthened their confidence in the desert's potential. Taya worked alongside them, her hands busy with mapping and planting. "It's amazing," she said. "How much life can return when we care for it. We're not just surviving, we're helping the desert thrive." Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. "And we couldn't have done it without you, Taya. Your instincts, your courage. You've made all this possible." Nayeli nodded in agreement. "She's right. You've grown so much, Taya. And together, we're stronger than any one of us alone." As the days turned into weeks, word of the transformed desert began to spread. Small groups of settlers from nearby colonies came to witness the oasis, bringing seeds, tools, and ideas. The desert that had once seemed harsh and empty was slowly becoming a beacon of hope, showing that humans could thrive even in the most challenging environments. One afternoon, while adjusting a network of solar reflectors, Jace paused and looked at Nayeli. "We've done something incredible here," he said. "But it's not just the desert. It's us. You, Taya, and me." Nayeli smiled, her hand brushing his. "Yes. And families care for each other, nurture each other, and grow together. Just like we've done with the desert." Taya joined them, holding a small tray of water and fruits. "It's perfect," she said. "Life is coming back, and we're part of it. Together." That evening, they sat outside the dome, watching the desert glow in the soft light of the twin moons. The terraforming device hummed gently in the background, a constant reminder of human ingenuity and the power of collaboration. Jace looked at Nayeli, and then at Taya. "I never imagined this life," he admitted. "Alone, I thought the desert would be all I had. But now, it's more. It's family. It's life. It's hope." Nayeli took his hand, squeezing it gently. "And it will continue to grow, as long as we keep caring for it, and for each other." Taya leaned against them, feeling safe and happy for the first time in years. "I think my mother and I both needed this. And maybe you did too, Jace," she said softly. Jace smiled. "Yes, I did." In the following weeks, the desert transformed further. Green patches expanded, streams connected small ponds, and wildlife returned in surprising numbers. Settlers began to establish small outposts, inspired by the work of Jace, Taya, and Nayeli. The desert was no longer a place of harsh survival. It was becoming a thriving ecosystem, a testament to human perseverance, ingenuity, and care. At night, as they sat together under the stars, Jace felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The desert was alive, their family was united, and the future was bright. He realized that true strength wasn't just about surviving harsh conditions, it was about nurturing life, building relationships, and embracing hope. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Taya looked at the horizon. "Do you think it will ever stop growing?" she asked. Jace chuckled. "I don't think so. Humans will keep learning, adapting, and caring. Life always finds a way, just like we have." Nayeli smiled, placing her arm around him. "And we'll be here to guide it. Together. You, me, and Taya. A family that can face anything." The desert stretched before them, golden in the light of the setting suns, alive with plants, water, and creatures. The future was no longer uncertain. It was theirs to shape, to nurture, and to enjoy. Jace looked at Nayeli, then at Taya, and finally at the thriving desert. "We did it," he said quietly. "We really did it." And in that moment, under the vast sky, with the transformed desert at their feet, the three of them knew that they had not only changed the land, they had changed themselves. The lost girl had found her mother. The cowboy had found a family. And together, they had created a home where life could flourish, hearts could grow, and hope could shine brighter than the twin suns above. The desert was no longer a place to endure. It was a place to live, to love, and to dream. And for Jace, Taya, and Nayeli, the horizon stretched endlessly, full of possibility, adventure, and the warmth of a family united.